Bite size. Not bite size. Bite size. Chocolatey bite size. Szczepanek here with another practicing quick tip for you. As you're learning and perfecting new music, and especially working on measures that are the difficult measures for you, maybe the technically challenging measures for you, I'd urge you to keep your focus on very, very small bite-sized pieces of music. Many times I see students underestimate how small we can actually make these chunks. So for example, in this piece that I've been playing for you so far, Schubert's Musicaux in F minor, if, let's say, we need to work on the measure that's in thirds, this is one of the more commonly worked on measures. That little bit, it's got a couple tricky hand shifts. We have to play in thirds, we have to articulate the fingers the right way. There's a lot of technical challenges in that measure. Now, we aren't going to do ourselves any favors if we simply go back to the beginning of the piece. Even if we're playing at a slow tempo, if we go all the way back to the beginning of the piece, and we have to play some 8 measures or so to get to this spot that we know is the hardest for us, we're not really going to be making it any better every pass through, because by the time we get there at a slow tempo, 8 bars might take us 30 seconds to a minute. Our brain has forgotten a lot of what we've worked on the previous time we went through that passage. So we want to take this technically challenging bit and break it into the smallest components that it has. So in the case of this piece, we might say that is a beat and a 16th note. So just one beat plus a 16th note is the first difficult chunk, and it would be this. Just that much. And we would practice like that. Even if we need to go slow at the beginning, making sure we play all the right notes, we have the right fingering, so on, right? Making sure that we feel whatever the hardest thing is. In this case, probably the shift in hand position from the first beat into the second beat, right? But we feel that technically challenging bit and we execute it as perfectly as possible on each pass through. Then we take this little bit, maybe we can start to speed it up. Right? Now, instead of expanding that and going all the way back to the beginning, what if first we make this tiny little bite-sized chunk, make it just a little bit bigger? Maybe we make it this measure plus the next 16th note of the next measure. So in that case, it would be this. And then we would go through that and repeat that a number of times at a slow tempo, speeding up, feeling these shifts in hand position and the fingering as perfectly as possible, making sure we articulate everything, all of the fingers together across the thirds, right? That's in this particular case, but in any piece you're working on, identifying what makes this spot the most challenging, pare it down to the smallest bit that you possibly can, work on those very minute details. And then before we make this bite-sized chunk really massive, before we put it back in a phrase, just expand it a little bit. If we keep going with that idea, we might say before we go back and add it to the beginning of the piece, we might expand into just the one previous measure. So in that case, it would be something like this. So I just took the one bar previous and added it to the bar that we're working on. We make that comfortable. Then maybe again, before we go all the way back to the beginning, we add one more bar, one more measure, putting this in context, but it's still a smaller chunk of music, right? So if we go one more bar previous, we start here. And then maybe we drop the tempo, go all the way back to the beginning of this piece, or go back to the full beginning of the phrase where this challenging bit exists, and then put it in context. So keep these most difficult or trickiest or hardest passages, keep them in bite-sized chunks. Keep them in really small chunks, maybe even smaller than you think they need to be. You'll spend less time practicing and you'll make much more progress. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel and ding that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. As always, practice smarter, not harder, and I'll see you next time you visit Pianist Academy.